happy Thursday. We got a few things to go over today, a few things that are kind of coming up. I want to make sure that everybody's been exposed to some of the situations and issues that we've got going on. Talk about resolution. You know, we're all about solutions here, making sure that you know how to migrate the thorny landscape of the marketplace. And of course, once we add in Blue Cross and the government, and those two entities are working together, as many of us know, we are seeing a few hurdles. Nothing crazy, nothing that we can't handle, and nothing odd that we really haven't spoken about in past meetings. I want to take the time today to review some of those areas, obviously invite some of the concerns that you guys are seeing. Gig has shared with me several of your questions and concerns, and we're not seeing some of the things that you guys may have maybe bringing up. I don't know if this is processing errors, the way that we're doing the eligibility, but we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, having great success, of course, and making sure that this is a stellar year once again. Well, as we are 17 days into open enrollment, really the wheels should be churning. Everything should be going on. You know, we are done with the election. The excuses are over for everybody. It's time to, you know, either take the chip off your shoulder, make sure that this is not a political landscape, and understand that nothing is changing in the next 2 years at a minimum. We've had several conversations with leadership because, you know, we are getting customers that are saying, oh, well, you know, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to see what happens. Trump is going to repeal this. Oh, my goodness, the sky is falling. Take a deep breath and don't sweat it, because all legislation that's going to be changing, or any legislation that's going to be changing, can't change the tax law for 2017 at this point. So the individual mandate is clear and going to be still alive and well for next year. Now, adjustments, are they going to happen? The answer is yes. You can't look at the Affordable Care Act and say that things don't need to change and things don't need to be adjusted, so keep that in mind. But knowing that if your customers are insured, there's going to be some sort of, or have to be some sort of plan with a grandfathering program. You know, we have people who are looking and saying he's going to take away guaranteed issue. He's not talking about taking away guaranteed issue programs. One of his biggest things that he's talking about is keeping those guaranteed issue provisions, so that way everyone can be covered. How they're going to do it with affordability is yet to be seen. But we do know that if your people that you're talking to get involved now, if they are enrolled now, they will have coverage and they don't have to sweat it. I don't think that the majority of the people that we talk to are buying insurance just because they are worried about the tax implications. Because when you look at the tax implications for many of the people that we talk to, really not the driving factor. It's access to care. It's access to health coverage that is going to give them the services that they need. And it's nice if they are lower income, it makes things a little bit easier that, you know, they will get assistance. Because the Affordable Care Act, if you are not highly subsidized, well, let's just all be honest with each other, it's not affordable. So, you know, making sure that you've got the talking points, making sure that you understand that, yeah, there may be Medicaid expansion by the state. If that happens, how is that going to affect these people? It's really going to make sure that they are enrolled, they have coverage. If they get sick, you may have to put your little selling hat on here. Who's going to pay their medical bills? You know, and who's going to give them that factor of choice? And we're not really seeing too much of it, but it is some conversations that are, you know, that are happening. And some people are concerned about it because they think that, you know, tomorrow Trump is going to, you know, get rid of the Affordable Care Act just like that, you know, blow up the world with nuclear weapons and all of the other stuff that comes along with it. And it's just not realistic, okay? You know, you've got a lot of people, millions of people that are insured, and to disband and to unravel the way that the Affordable Care Act works and how it's tied into taxation and how it's tied into other factors, group insurance and things of that nature, it's just not that easy of an unwinding. There's a lot of articles out there that I've been reading that really talk about this, trying to keep, you know, eye on the ball and making sure that we've got all of that together and everybody's comfortable. So that being said, what we're doing now is, well, we're selling business. So some of you are having some hurdles, some of you are having some questions, And I'd like to open up the platform now to questions that you're having, so that way we can talk a little bit more about it. Now, some of the things that have happened in the last couple of days, first and foremost, is going to be some issues that we're having with RX. So as you can see on the screen here, we sent out some communications to our team members talking a little bit about an RX glitch. Now, what this has done is it's affected many people adversely. Some sort of system issue. I guess they blame everything on the IT these days, those poor IT folks. These system issues have caused people, when they go to fill their medications, to have a cumbersome experience, shall we call it. Now, the reason for that is because something in the backside has caused those RX lookups at the pharmacy not to work. People are being told that they don't have RX coverage. Well, that's just not true. However, the system issue is causing that to be true. So when these people go to fill their medications, Agent Service Center has confirmed this information. They can't fill their medication. So what do? They should have this fixed probably today or later tomorrow, but I think it should be resolved today, if not already. Now, these people, when they go to the pharmacy, again, they're being told they have no RX coverage. We know that that's incorrect. They can get a 1 or 2 day fill of that medication until this issue is resolved. They can pay for that medication if it's financially possible to do so. And if that's happening, they will be reimbursed. They'll have to fill out an RX claim form, which is located on the member site. I believe you also have that in your Dropbox where Mr. Falco puts your documents. So I just want to make sure that you've got the talking points. That way, if someone contacts you and says, I can't fill my medication, what's going on, how is that happening, and you have an understanding of what's going on. A couple other changes that I believe some agent service bulletins will be rolling out at some point in time, that the Prime Mail is switching to Walgreens Mail on several of our programs. Some of your members will be getting notification of this, if they have not already, that they're making this transition from Prime Mail switching to Walgreens Mail. This doesn't affect anyone adversely. What it does is it's just a switching of the delivery system of those mail order medications. So if your member gets that document, wants you to be aware of it, it's not that we're moving away from Prime. It's just the Prime Mail piece of it that is going to be eliminated. Next, let's just talk a little bit about Medicare. With Medicare, some of the members that you enrolled already have been getting letters from SilverScript saying that they have been enrolled in SilverScript, and with that enrollment in SilverScript, why is that happening? So, for example, what's happening on this situation is if you enrolled a member and that member was in a county where their HMO was being eliminated, or their product was being eliminated, a local PPO. I don't think many people on LIS have local PPOs. But however, if they're in a county where the product is being eliminated and they are identified as an LIS, low-income person, on a Medicare program, CMS rules are automatically enrolling those people back into original Medicare with a SilverScript program. Now, as long as they've made a selection during AEP, your AEP selection will override that letter and you don't need to worry about it. However, if they get that letter, you have to understand why they're getting it. And we don't know necessarily all of our members who are LIS qualified. So you may not be aware of this. Well, now you might be. So if they get this letter and they reach out to you, what's going on? I got this letter that I'm enrolled in SilverScript. We just did a regional PPO. Why is this happening? Make sure that you understand those talking points for that as well. Now I want to move on to the payments, but before I move on to the payments, I want to make sure that no one has any questions about the Prime Mail, RX, or LIS. Okay, so payments, as we know, we were given some guidance, we were given some job aids, and in the training that was done through Skillsoft, we were advised certain payment methodology and how you are going to make payments. Now, we have sent out a billing cheat sheet, but all of that information is there as well, but they are there in separate documents and separate forms. So I want to give everybody the pathway and give you some advice. The first piece of advice that I'm going to give everyone, and I would definitely listen to this one, is do not do an application for a new piece of business without taking payment. You are just opening up recipe for disaster. So if you do complete an application and you do not select payment, you need to make that payment at a later time. And there's a couple of ways that you can do that we've talked about collectively as a group. Now, when you are trying to make that payment after the fact, what do? Well, first way that you can do it, and probably the most advisable way, is go back out to the marketplace and use the pay button that is out on the marketplace. So we go out through IST, go out to our marketplace, and then we're going to find the application. So what we would do in this situation is we'd go out here, and we would look for our application that we have. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Perfect. We're in. Yay. I always feel happy. Like I won a prize when I get in. All right, so now we're going to search for our application, and as we see, it's actually moving along today. Remember, now I would have processed this application 2 to 3 days beforehand. Now, when we go through this, if you try and go back in immediately, you're probably not going to see that application, because what's going to happen is once you find this 2017 application that you want to make a payment on, click the Update Application, and if you have a completed application, it'll be located in My Plans and Programs. So what will happen is that when you enrolled that plan, you went into Blue Cross, went out to the marketplace, got your eligibility, came back into Blue Cross and enrolled them. You find out, of course, that that member does not have a method of payment at the time of application, or they just can't pay today. Now, I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that you can take that payment and you could put it off to another date. Everybody is aware of the delayed payment functionality, correct? Is that correct? Does everybody understand that? We're good? Okay. So when you made that, but you weren't able to put that, they didn't have their billing information in front of them, they didn't have this in their hand. So when you got into Blue Cross, you click Submit the Application, it brings you to the payment screen, and then there's a drop-down box that shows that you can, when do you want this payment to come out? And you could tell it, I want it to come out on December 15th. I want it to come out sometime before the effective date. If you don't do it before the effective date, then the policy will not go into force. But let's say that you didn't take advantage of the delayed effective date. You didn't know it was there. You didn't understand it was there. What happens? Customer calls you back 3 days later and says, I would like to pay. Perfect. So you're going to follow the pathway that I'm going to come in. You're going to go into My Plans and Programs. And then when you get into My Plans and Programs, you will see at that point in time that you will have also a pay button. I do not have a pay button because I did not select the program in Blue Cross. Well, this is for John Doe, so there would have been no reason to do that. This was a demonstration application. But your plan and program would be here. If you scroll down a little bit further, you will see a pay button. You could click on that pay button. That pay button will therefore bring you into the payment screen. And then when you get into that payment screen, you can make the payment. You need to be advised, though, there's some troubleshooting that goes on here. The first thing is you really got to wait at least 3 days before you can go back here and make that premium payment, because there is communication that is going on the back end. And with that communication that's going on in the back end, there is Blue Cross who's receiving an 834 file from the marketplace, and then Blue Cross is sending them back an enrollment file, and then these two things have to coordinate on healthcare.gov so you can make a payment. So I would advise, before you call Blue Cross to try and make a payment, that you use this payment methodology. Now, what happens if the plan doesn't show up there and it's been 3 or 4 days? You may want to wait a little bit longer, and you want to continue to monitor that application. We're not seeing delays in excess of 4 days, but if you see something that is more than 4 days, then you need to let us know, or you need to let your agent services know, open up a ticket for that so they can research it and check it out. Keep your eye on it. It's very important that you follow those pathways. Now, the reason that it's changed a little bit, because originally in our documentation and the things that we've talked about with everyone, is we've talked about using a link that is also in your billing cheat sheet. Well, it looks like this. So if you go through and you go and look at the cheat sheet or look at the job aids, you are brought to a payment screen that says log in and pay your initial premium, but it's asking you for a member ID. The problem being is that there's no way for you to identify the member ID unless you call agent services. So if you contact agent services and you ask them what is the member ID, they may or may not be able to find it. Shocker. You'd have to tell them that it's a new enrollee, they haven't paid yet, they need to pay, and I need their H number so that way I can make a payment. If they are able to identify and give you the H number, then you are able to use this pathway, the viewbill.com pathway, to make that initial binder payment. But this is only for initial payments. This is not for ongoing payments. After the policy effectuates and goes into force, then at that point you can access the Florida Blue site for ongoing payments and ongoing payment setup, of course. So there's been some hurdles with that because you're trying to find the contract number, maybe the pay button's not there. You know, how do you go through that? Now, what's the other thing that can happen? You can just wait. Because believe it or not, in about 10 to 14 days after the enrollment is complete, they will receive a bill from Florida Blue in which they can pay that bill, but also located on that bill will be a contract number. And you can use that contract number, that H number that you see on the screen right there, not that one, but something that looks similar to that, to make that payment. So you would be able to do that and make the payment at a later date. They could also mail in a payment. However, I wouldn't advise paper bills. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about what hurdles that you're having with that. I'm just going to address some of these questions. We'll take a moment to pause here. I think we've got some questions that are on other things as well. I will try and address all of them in the order that they came in. Bill, I'll cover yours next. George, I'll cover yours as well a little bit later. Just want to cover the billing piece now, if anybody's got that, and then I'll cover the drug questions as well as the enrollment questions. Okay. Please go over the late payment function. Sarah, I think I did cover that, but if it's not clear, it's in the billing screen. I'd have to go through an entire application to show you what those screens look like. But when you get into the billing screens themselves, I'm sure you're not the only one who's not really comfortable with that late payment option. What you can do is you're given a screen that gives you a drop-down. How many payments would you like to make, 1 or 2 or a different amount? When would you like that payment to draft? And it's the initial payment. And you have that functionality in the payment screen itself. If we need further explanation on that, I'll have to get some screenshots, and I can show you what that looks like. So someone's asking a question, and the question is that if the pay button is on the marketplace, should you use that pay button? You can use that pay button, but however, it's not there immediately after you process an application. If it is there immediately after you process an application, that means that you're not using IST to process an app. And if you are not using IST to process the app, you don't have the same functionality. You're not following the same pathway. You're taking way more time to process an application than the rest of us, because you're creating a marketplace app or trying to find, identify, and look up a marketplace application for a customer. Then you're going through, you're doing a plan selection, and if that pay button is there and you're not returning to the issuer website, you're not returning to Blue Cross, and you see that payment link, Jane, then of course you can use that payment link on the marketplace. Just to confirm, they will still receive a paper bill for premium in the mail or email as well, only if you did not make a premium payment. If you did not make a premium payment, they will be set up on paper bill and it will be brought out to them, sent out to them. Well, brought out to them by the mail carrier. How's that? Better yet. Let's see, going through some of these questions here. All right, so I think that covers the payment issues. You know, it's just a little challenging because what's happening and what we're hearing is that your customers are contacting Florida Blue a couple days afterwards. They're giving them the information. They're having an encumbered member experience, and that is giving them headaches because they're calling Blue Cross and saying, hey, I want to pay, and Blue Cross is telling them, hey, we don't have you in the system. So we don't want that to happen because that communication is going on in the background. So it's really important that you take hold of that. You tell your customers, you know, the process. We send a thank you email that gives them step-by-step instructions on what they need to do and how they need to do it. It's very important that you type something out like that for your teams or yourself. Send that to your customers so that way they can review that and they are comfortable in that process. All right? So some other things that are going on are going to be in the status sections of the My Prospects. Now, I'll be able to show you some basics here today, but these are going to be very, very basic because I can't show you everything due to HIPAA regulations and due to PHI. So for today's example, what I want everybody to know that I'm talking about, and I'm going to eliminate this off the screen in a minute, is going to be these statuses right here. And these statuses are something that you really have to be comfortable with and you have to understand what's going on. So when you start an application, pay attention everybody because this is very, very important. When you start an application, that application is going to be in a status that's called in progress. Now once you have that status as in progress, if it stays in the in progress status on this screen, then what will happen is that your application is not submitted. That means that it hasn't been completed. You have not hit the submit button. So if you go through your prospect list and you see things that say in progress, it's not done. Now, I'm not talking about enrollment in progress. I'm not talking about enrollment started or enrollment complete. I'm talking about specifically in progress. Once you submit the application, if that application is an off-marketplace application, then that will go immediately to enrollment complete submission. Because what's going to happen as soon as you hit submit, then it's going to go to membership and billing. That's going to show complete submission, and then you're good to go. You don't have to worry about it. Where we're having some issues or where you're seeing some things, you're seeing enrollment failed. I want you to ignore that. That enrollment failed is something that is a communication problem that is happening with Blue Cross. They're aware of it. IT is addressing it, and that should be being removed very soon. But what you're going to see is enrollment started. Now that enrollment started or enrollment in progress status that you're going to see there is going to mean that there is communication of 834 files going on between Florida Blue and the marketplace. And then until your customer pays, you will not see the words enrollment complete. Because after payment is received, it will go to enrollment, membership, and billing, and membership and billing and enrollment will then put together everything and deliver them their ID cards and their policy. But it won't go to that status until the policy is paid for. Okay? So it's important that you understand that because if you see enrollment failed, I don't want you to get all upset because it's simply it's something that it's a known issue. It's a Blue Cross and marketplace communication issue. And if you have problems, we will let you know because IT is looking at it. They know that most all of the ones that are sitting there in enrollment failed, they're resolving and they're looking through it. And we're waiting for waiting for Blue Cross to go through and fix it. And they're fixing it now. They've told us that they are going to communicate with the agents and agencies about if there is a problem with an application due to a problem with the subsidy or a problem with the marketplace, and then we'll be able to fine-tune that. We're seeing it with dental applications showing failed. Ignore that. Don't worry about it. Again, take that off your radar if you see enrollment failed. But know that if you don't get to that enrollment completed status, that they haven't paid. That's important that you understand that. Bill, hopefully that says that answers your question, but if it does not, let me know. All right, just seeing if we have any other questions about the enrollment statuses going through here. Give me a minute while I look through it, and then I'll start chunking through these other questions. Let's go back to a payment question. If the delayed payment, will it show later enrollment complete? Yes, Bill. So if I did a delayed payment, it's not going to go to complete enrollment until that payment is received. Once the payment is received and processed, then it will change that status. Great question. Okay, back to the top. Let's go through some of these questions that are a little all over the place as far as different things. First question is, how does Blue Select work out of state? It works just like Blue Options. So those of you that aren't familiar with the provider directory, I'm going to nearly fall out of my chair right now. You can go through, find doctors and hospitals nationally. You'll click on that. It's going to ask you what type of plan that you have. Now remember, you know what the prefixes are for your plans, and you know that there is no out-of-area coverage or out-of-state coverage on our MyBlue, except for emergencies or urgently needed care. And it better be an emergency, trust me. So if you know the prefix of the card, we do know that. We've shared that with everyone. Everybody knows about those prefixes, VMD, VBD, VMA. But you can also go through and you click on your Blue card, EPO, PPO, and then you could search for doctors or hospitals or service providers nationwide. And they will get the same treatment if that doctor takes the Blue Cross Association of their particular state as they do here in Florida. So for Blue Select, you can pretty much identify that you have a wider selection of physicians and a wider service area that you can access if you have Blue Select if you leave the state of Florida rather than staying in the state of Florida. But know that they'll be able to get that taken care of. I looked up an RX medication on Prime for MyBlue, and I don't understand how it's covered. What is Condition Care brand on MyBlue Silver plans? Wow. Well, Condition Care brands and Condition Care programs is a huge thing, and if you're not talking about Condition Care programs, you are definitely missing and losing sales that you should not be. When you come in and you're finding a prescription, and we can review this so we can see exactly what we're talking about, and if you look up drugs on a regular basis, this should be something that you're doing all the time. So let me get in here really quick. We're in Florida Blue. We're finding medicines. Just a quick review. I see some other questions about medications. Let's make sure that we're clear. If I'm using the searchable My Prime, you must select the right formulary. The Value Script RX is the formulary that you will use when looking for MyBlue. The question's about MyBlue, so we'll use that. And then we have the VBD, Value Benefit Design formulary, also referred to as Care Choices, a formulary listing that is for our Blue Options, Blue Select, and Blue Care programs. Now, we're talking about MyBlue. So let's take a look. Now, the medication that's in question, I can't pronounce it, so it doesn't really matter, but let's just type it in. Okay, there it is. And we're looking for an 8 milligram tablet, and we're going to go submit. Now, on here, it tells you clearly it's a Condition Care brand medication. Now, we've covered a lot of this in training, but you know that in the Condition Care programs, they get favorable treatment or a lower copay for medications for the treatment of diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, asthma, mental or nervous disorders. Now, because we have that in the plan selection, if we look at the matrix or we look at the plan summary, it clearly states condition care preventative brand. And they will have a lower copay, copay for this brand name drug. So if we were to pull up the matrix, let's take a look really quick. Now, all of you should have the matrix or should have your plans. I'm just going into our drive, which is the same thing that we use for you guys in the Dropbox. Now, if we look at our plans, let's just look at a Blue Options plan because it's really going to be the same thing. In the mini summaries, if you're looking at the mini summaries, it tells you that whether it's a condition care brand right here. So it tells you, and you can see that there is a lower copay on this particular one, this particular plan that I just pulled up, 1410C. You can see that the copay for a condition care brand is $3, where all others are $5. So it's a lower copay if it's condition care brand. And you can see these are identified by tier numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, as you can see here. Now, these tier numbers are associated as well with the matrix. So if we're back and we're looking at the matrix, and again, you can see where this is listed here on the standard plan summaries. But if we go back out to the matrix, in the plan matrix, I think I just like saying matrix today, and we're looking at a 1604 or some other plan. And here it's dictated as tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So tier 1 is going to be our generic oral contraceptives. Tier 2 is our condition care generics. Tier 3 is our standard generics. Tier 4 is our condition care brands. Tier 5, standard brands. 6 and 7, specialties and non-preferred drugs. Now, you can see here, with this particular policy, the 1604 that I'm looking at, you can see that this has a postscript on it. I think that's what they call it. Losing my mind today. And that would be subject to the deductible. So if I got a traditional generic medication, it's subject to my deductible on this particular plan. But if I was taking a condition care generic medication, I would pay $5. Same thing goes for the tier 4 medication, which would be a condition care brand, being listed at $35. However, if it was non-condition care brand, it would be subject to the deductible and then a $65 copay. Hopefully that's clear for everybody now, and I will move on. Is Caremark still the mail order specialty drugs? Yes, it is. We are still using CVS Caremark for our specialty pharmacy. You can still make payments at CVS. The only thing you can't do at CVS is fill prescriptions. Makes a lot of sense. All right, going back to some processing questions. So let's look at a processing question. When arriving at the end of the healthcare.gov app, process just prior to viewing eligibility report, I have seen on several occasions an error message that does not prevent me from viewing the eligibility. We covered this in the last 2 weeks, Doug. So has anyone seen this? Yes, we're all seeing that. So you would get an error message potentially when you look up the application, a potential error message, a 500 error message when you're done. It doesn't impede the enrollment process in any way, shape, or form, so you can continue enrolling that member. It's just some sort of display message. So you're fine with that. I have completed my application on the 11th along with a dental application, but it doesn't show completed application. I think I've covered that already, Luann, so that should be clear now. I have an off-marketplace couple that needs to renew with changes. Husband is going to stay with Blue Select. Wife is going to go to a Blue Options plan. What is the best way to do this, not to mess up their billing and create multiple applications? That's you can remove that member from that. You can use the change forms for that. There's a couple of different ways, none of which are going to be a pleasurable experience because there is room for error. In the manage screen in Blue Cross, I believe that you will be able to remove her off of that in the contract maintenance. We know that we can add members to that. I believe you can remove them. I'm not 100% sure, Jeff, so I apologize because we're adding members to it. Another way that you could do that is you can cancel the entire policy, but then writing the new one may be an issue. I'd contact agent services and get the best advice for that to avoid that, but I believe you can do it in contract maintenance. Applicant has a group health insurance in 2016. Needs to take a distribution from a 401k income. For subsidy purposes, should they take the income in 2016 or 2017? Well, it's income. So if they take it in 2016, it'll be on their 2016 taxes, and it won't affect their 2017 subsidy. That being said, I would take it now if they are worried about negatively impacting their subsidy eligibility. I'm not really sure of the answer to this question, so I'll find out. What happens if there is a zero premium for a client? If there's a zero premium for a client, there should be no payment that's necessary. It should go directly to membership and billing and enrollment and should quickly and swiftly run into the enrollment complete process. That being said, if you're seeing something different than that, I have not heard any of those from the field. So if you're seeing something different, let me know. Can we go to the marketplace through IST, complete an application on healthcare.gov, then come back to Blue Cross to complete the payment, etc., without doing a quote on Blue Cross first? You should never be doing a quote on Blue Cross first, Kevin. Why would you do that? You know, if you're using a third party or you're using some way, you're using a Kaiser calculator, you're using an Aka Express just to get a quote, right? Then you already know what the price is. If you're going through the steps of going to the home page, creating a proposal, and then going to the marketplace, you're wasting time. Valuable, 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 really, really valuable time. So what you should do is just go straight to the marketplace, find the application. You already know what the pricing is going to be. You don't know exactly what the subsidy will be. So when you come back into Blue Cross, then you'll have the most accurate pricing. Remember, give the roundabout, then get it back into Blue Cross to do the enrollment. I would absolutely not be creating a proposal first. Is it safe to make a delayed payment amount on 12/30/16 for a 1/1/17 enrollment? If you're brave, because if that person's payment failed, then what happens? I would do it earlier if possible. But yeah, you can do that. Good morning, Craig. I've got a question here. So it's under 65, applicant is under 100% of the FPL and has received an exemption through the marketplace. Income is $8,600 but wants to purchase insurance. Should he apply for Florida Medicaid and with a denial letter become eligible for ACA subsidy at 100% of the FPL? The answer is no. No, and absolutely not. He's under 100% of the federal poverty level. He's not going to get Medicaid. We did not accept Medicaid expansion in the state. First of all, he's a guy. He's not getting Medicaid unless he's got something else going on. So the answer is no. Unfortunately, he's going to be exempt from a tax penalty, and he does not have the ability to enroll with the subsidy, even with the declination of Medicaid. He will have an exemption. So unless that customer can find themselves about $200 a year and doing odd jobs or other income, he is not going to be able to purchase a plan unless he purchases that plan at full cost option. It doesn't make you feel good, not really that great, not all fine and dandy, but it's just the rules that we have to follow. Where is the list of the condition care drugs? Those condition care drugs are listed inside MyPrime. They are on the Care Choices formulary that you can access through MyPrime. And that list is clearly identified in the paper formulary, or of course, as we just showed, you should use the MyPrime lookup tool, and that will be a really good way of doing it. So I think that is the best way for you to search for the drugs. A processing question. David, good morning. Off marketplace renewal, but a different agent. What's the easiest way to make the change? Well, they don't change the AOR, so it doesn't matter. You could look up my policy and do a renewal on my policy. The AOR is not changing. So the easiest way to do it is follow the normal pathway. Go in here. You're going to contract maintenance. You're going to get the member number. You're going to get their social or tax ID, date of birth, and you could look it up. The AOR does not matter. The AOR doesn't matter on the marketplace either. I know that Gig had got some communications from some of you that are saying you were getting error messages in Blue Cross because the NPN number doesn't match. Incorrect. Not ever seen that. I don't know if Agent Services told you that, where they came up with that guidance, because that is just way off. When you get into this, we've recommended to many of you that you report a life change. Now, the reason that we've recommended you report a life change because it takes an extra 10 minutes to do the application. However, you are confirming at that point that your NPN number is in the application. Now, why does that matter? Well, because if later on during the year that person contacts the marketplace and does life events, you are still remaining as the AOR. That AOR will remain in there. It eliminates the conversation with Blue Cross and saying, well, you weren't on the marketplace application. It's an extra layer of protection for you and your compensation. I know that we all do this to help people, but some of us need to pay the bills, and making sure that your AOR is in there does make a difference. So taking that extra 2 minutes to do that. I've had a couple conversations with several of you that said, well, I went in there and they had an eligibility, and then when I hit my life event and I went through the application, they lost it. Well, why did they lose it? They lost it because there's something in that application that has changed. And that eligibility may have been valid for 2016, but it's not valid for 17, and I'll give you a perfect example. We had a young lady call the office the other day, and she just wanted to do her renewal, so we started doing that renewal processing, but we do pre-qualifications. She wasn't our customer. She was a Blue Cross member. She informs us that she's got her Obama phone. She informs us that she has no income, but she has a plan with Florida Blue. Well, how does she have a plan with Florida Blue with no income? Because the agent that enrolled her before enrolled her and listed that she had income so she could get coverage. Well, that was very swell of that agent. But now this woman is in a situation where she's got no income. She's not supposed to have a subsidy. She's got a subsidy in the marketplace. So what do? You go in there, you put your name on it, you lie on the application additionally, saying that now, okay, Mark is saying that you've got no income, and then it comes to pass that CMS finds out you're doing that and they terminate your NPN, but you were only doing what was in the application already. You're better off not touching it and leaving it alone. Because in that situation now I put my name on an application on the marketplace, I've exposed my NPN to wrongdoing. So just don't do it. Other situations that we've identified is that incomes change. So for example, let's just say that they have their income, and their income last year was $11,770, conveniently enough. And now this year they go into the marketplace and there is an application in there and it shows that they have an eligibility. But let's just say that last year you might have stretched the truth a little bit. Maybe they were close to that number, but they weren't really going to hit it. Well, now they need to be at 11,880. And if they don't make 11,880, then they're not going to get a subsidy either. So it is important that you pre-qualify and you don't put your clients in a negatively impacting situation where they can owe money back to the IRS. Making sure that they may have moved from a B variant to an A variant. Now maybe this year, because their income changed, maybe they're no longer, or excuse me, they were an A variant, now they're going to be a B variant because the FPL went up, but their income did not. So making sure that you address these fluctuations is very important when you're processing applications. That's why I recommend a report a life event. But if you don't want to do that, that is your prerogative. But at the end of the year when it comes through, and if there are hurdles or there are complications, I just want to remind everybody why I said that. It's because I'm trying to protect the client from a negative impacting situation, as well as you, the agent, making sure that your NPN number is in there, making sure that if you're putting your name on something that is a legal and binding document, regulated by Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services, the Department of Insurance, and, oh yeah, the government, those people, that you do it right. Question about payments. If I'm doing a delayed initial premium late into December, will clients still get their ID cards before signing up? No, they will only get those materials after the payment has gone through. And in fact, they may get documentation for if they were auto migrated. You got to make sure that that's done. You got to make sure that the enrollment is done and it's done correctly. I would try and get the money, but they're not going to get their ID cards. They're not going to get their membership information until after that payment is received. You would be able to go into Blue Cross, of course, if they don't get their information, and look for a temporary ID card. So you can go out and you could search for your temporary ID cards, and this is a great tool that you should be using. And again, you could look up anybody's ID card. It doesn't matter whether you are the AOR or not. An off-marketplace renewal, a client renewed into the same plan, but I did not put in the auto pay, an error. Client now has auto pay and wants auto pay for 117. How do we reset it up? You shouldn't have to. If they're on auto pay now, and this is clear guidance that we've given everyone, you're not supposed to take a payment on any, I repeat one more time, don't take money on any off-marketplace renewals. You can't. Cause a problem. Now, if that customer wants to set up autopay, my best advice, if they're not on autopay, is for them to log into their Blue Cross website, their member portal, which we should be giving our customers guidance on how to do that. Go in here as a member, individuals and family, register, create an account. They could set up their payment options. They could see their bills. They could see their claims. It's a great member tool that you should be accessing and talking to your customers about. All right. Perfect. How are condition care drugs treated on an HSA? Read the summary of benefits. You got to go through those summary of benefits. I hear a lot of agents making mistakes on summaries of benefits, making assumptions. Well, blood work is always free. Not all the time. This has always been that copay forever. It might have changed. So please reference your summary of benefits all of the time. Every time you're talking to someone, you should go through, and just as an example for Holly, if we're looking at an HSA plan and we go through and we're looking at an HSA plan, you just simply identify it and it's listed right here. Now remember, the only difference with HSA condition care drugs, as you can see, it's clearly identified here with the tiers. There you go. You can see that those condition care drugs are not subject to the deductible. However, if they are not condition care drugs and not explicitly listed as a condition care drug, they are subject to the deductible. Very important that you understand that. Good question. But yeah, I really need everybody to reference those documents so that way you're just not giving anybody wrong guidance. So that being said, I think we've covered everything that I wanted to go through today. Is there any other concerns with enrollment? Is there any other concerns with processing, plan design that we need to cover as a team? Perfect. All right, everybody. Hope everybody has a fantastic day. We got 76 days left in open enrollment, I believe it is. So running out of time. Hopefully you guys are hitting your goals and surpassing them. It's good really to see all the activity. I will add one little thing for everyone. Our agents are doubling their income this year really by writing ancillary products. Our packaging rates are through the roof. All of our renewals that we're processing, if they didn't already have ancillary products, they are getting those ancillary products. It's a really good way for your teams to increase exponentially their income, sort of like asking, do they want fries with that? Really need to focus on that, need to make sure that we're doing a good job with the ancillary products, because as we've all taken commission changes this year, it's a really good way to upgrade that and make a lot more money. Does anybody have any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to let everybody go. Going once. Going twice. Yes, they need to cancel their supplement if it is with a different carrier. Linda. Perfect. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you for the time. Once again, do a good job and let's make lots of money. Have a good day. Thank you.